Okay, here we go. Here we freaking go. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the podcast, the TSSC podcast. And we're going to be talking about some stuff that I kind of have an issue with a bunch of fans. And fans in general with Pokemon Sword and Shield and Home, and the statement that a lot of people have an issue with because it should be common sense with Pokemon in general, and you shouldn't be getting mad at the creators and the directors that work on Pokemon games. Like, yes, you're gonna be supporting them by buying said games, but it's kind of ridiculous. And the thing that I'm gonna be going off of is we never caught all the Pokemon in the 100% all these Pokemon in one game. It's always been, oh, there's an exclusive Pokemon in another game that you can't get, and vice versa, or event Pokemon that you can't get through the main series games. We're only able to catch some of the Pokemon, but not all of the Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
And for them to do Pokemon Bank is to gather all the Pokemon into one unit. That's always been the thing. And now we got Pokemon Home that acts as our place to put all the Pokemon into a one thing, and plus have a trade software also added into Pokemon Home, so not only you could just trade back and forth in Pokemon Home, but again you're only able to have all the Pokemon in that one unit. So again, here we are with that factor where we have this mechanic. A lot of people are complaining that they can't transfer all those Pokemon into the Pokemon game, and they keep mentioning that, oh, well, isn't it supposed to be catch them all? But you didn't catch them all. You're transferring them all, but you're not catching them all. And then the Pokemon brand does not mean catch them all at all. You've always been able to catch some of them and trade some of them, or getting them through an event. Never ever caught them all. So,
John, I'm gonna interject here, because I think more or less the issue is, yes, we have Home. That is essentially the replacement for Pokemon Bank.
yes.
And the one common issue is that Game Freak's decision to omit use of the national dex.
And Pokemon Home, yes.
But nobody has an issue with Home. It's more or less along the lines of it's omitting, because remember how in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon you were able to port everything into the game regardless if it was in the Pokedex or not?
Yeah, you definitely.
And so with the introduction of Home, it's kind of that same thinking for Pokemon fans, to where they really want to be able to have the Pokedex, but able to port kind of out there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So they want that option to at least port. The issue is not being. The issue is that they're not able to port everything that they want to. So the issue is with the statement of you're not able to use Pokemon in Sword and Shield unless it's in the Pokedex. So that omits at least half the Pokedex, because you have at least, we don't know how many they're going to release as far as the new Pokedex. So when it comes to people using their favorites, they like that option. Does this make sense? To where it's like, they should have did it the same way they did it with Sun and Moon, to where they have that portability option, because with the introduction of Home and the announcement of Home, they said you're able to play with your favorites inside Sun and Moon, or inside Sword and Shield. And then E3 comes along and they said, oh, by the way, we also made the decision to omit literally half the dex itself, and that you won't be able to play with Pokemon that aren't in the deck. So people are kind of frantically saying at this point, oh, I hope my favorites make it into the game, where there's a rumor going around that there's 500 in the 500 being selected within the game.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this. So remember how I always use Kanto Pokemon. Out of the 6 that I normally use, only one is confirmed. Only one is confirmed as part of that Pokedex. So what happens is that the playability itself of the game, you're already kind of, well, Game Freak, with the decision to omit the national dex, is already almost really like shooting itself in the foot with its playability, because you could say, oh, we're trying to balance the system. Well, it's almost like a disservice, because now we're only limited to using whatever's in the Pokedex.
Yeah.
Does anything make sense of what I'm putting down here?
Oh yeah.
But here's the thing: isn't that the same way from all the generations though?
Yes, but you have to realize up until Generation 7, there was a national dex inside the game, and so people are usually, and then in Generation 7 they moved the international dex to Pokemon Bank. And at the same time, the portability and the playability of the game of Pokemon Bank, the National Dex, and Pokemon Sun and Moon wasn't affected or limited in any way. So I think it's more or less like we've gotten so used to playing with older Pokemon that it's like, oh wait, now you're just being able to say, oh, there's only a limited number of those older Pokemon that we're able to play with. What happens if the entire Pokedex, it's a Pokemon dump like Generation 5, and they just come, and Pokemon fans come back and say, that it's like, oh, it's limited to only, the Pokemon inside the Pokedex. Or it's limited to only those Pokemon that we feel is kind of lazy. So, as far as this is from Mashable Asia, and there's a tweet with a picture of the Scottish trainer that says, if you really love the Pokemon franchise, then you should demand a product made with care, rather than just wasting your $60 in a line of Game Freak to get away with a low quality game. So obviously, this is important.
That's going too far.
Yeah, this is important, where it's like, okay, we're not attacking the game developers. We're literally saying because let's face it, we had such high hopes for this game because it's on a new platform. It's no longer with the 3DS. And so I think where a lot of this is coming from is with that announcement of Home. And so you're telling us right now that with the introduction of Home, so you're able to take Pokemon Go, you're able to take Pokemon Bank, 3DS, you're able to take Let's Go, and you're able to port it into one, and then on the diagram itself, it says you're able to then port all of those Pokemon or use all of those Pokemon in Sword and Shield. And then come E3, it's almost like they had this like Indian giver like statement that said, "Oh, by the way, we have to edit what we've said already." To where it's like, "Oh, it's only available in the game. You're only able to use Pokemon Home for Pokemon who are already in the Pokedex itself." Which essentially does make sense because, like John has said, we haven't been able to catch every single Pokemon, and due to the sheer number, who wants to do that again? But at the same time, in reverse, if veteran players already have 809 Pokemon and they have a select few, I think it more or less comes down to the decision: are we able to use that select few that veteran players have in Sword and Shield because of this announcement?
But yeah, I was trying to let you got everything you need to say out there. I didn't want to interrupt. But I do have a question. Like, so basically, Pokemon Home is partially useful, I guess. If it makes, so I'm guessing it's partially pointless in a way, because like you're only allowed to use. Yeah. Cause I didn't think I was right. Cause like, yeah, it's just they give this to us, and we're assuming, oh yeah, we'll be able to transfer our Pokemon through it. No, you can't do that. But you can only be allowed to transfer their galleries and Pokemon. But yeah, and I can understand why people are upset because like they're getting like a big like where they're taking out half the portion, basically, and it's just like and like it kind of, I mean, for me, it's kind of, I don't agree with it. I don't really agree with it because it's like, let me just say, like, it's like, getting a game that has half the content in it. That's what it feels like, but, I don't understand why, most people are okay with, I don't understand why most people are okay with this. Like it's like getting half content for a game, and like who wants the game with half content in it? Like that's like getting Call of Duty and there's only like 5 guns.
Okay, but then they do updates later on. So, and the thing about this Pokemon game is not technically half the content. Yes, there's less Pokemon, but it's not saying that it's half the content.
But what I mean, like as I mean content, I mean I should have said I should have just like half the Pokedex or something meant to say. It's understandable though. Like it's just like unfortunate and like
it's just like the whole thing. It's very hard to process because we're kind of like, oh yes, we're very well, but it's like Game Freak has somewhat done this before with the they have.
Oh.
With the introduction with the introduction of Sun and Moon in Generation 7, not every Pokemon was available. Not every Pokemon was available in the Pokedex, but there was still an option
to transferring them
in those games to play the game with non-Pokedex Pokemon.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I remember that now.
So if I think they went that route, there wouldn't be this outrage.
But I feel like they might.
But like John is saying, there is somewhat of a glimmer of hope that they could kind of reverse the decision and port the Pokemon into the game at a later date.
Or at least, do an update where, okay, now you can have this option to bring more of these Pokemon in there. You probably get like at least 30 to 50 more additions because they did an update. But even then,
Yeah. So I
It's
think
there's still that whole option that they're also gonna be probably bringing in Generation 4 that
Mhm.
might have because it's gonna be a remake of Generation 4. They might introduce the rest of the Pokemon into transferring the rest of the generation Pokemon onto
But I
that
mean, I think
game.
right, and so I think for this, it's like it seems very out of the ordinary, the announcements for this game.
Mm.
For Sword and Shield, because they announced it in February, and then they were quiet for half the year, for almost half the year, and so it built up this anticipation. And so for this anticipation to get to the point of, and that anticipation was kind of confirmed as soon as the Pokemon conference was be able to broadcast live over Twitch, and then everyone was fine with that. They were jazzed, and then come E3, it's like, wait a minute. You were silent for half the year on this issue. Pokemon fans were like scratching their heads saying, where's Pokemon Bank?
And
so
then,
it's like,
then you guys give us Pokemon Bank.
And then they give us this announcement, and it's like, it's almost like a what?
I can understand the confused, the hard.
So it's
hard
almost
to
like
process it is.
how hard the process is, because you have all this anticipation for half the year, you get nothing. Everybody's scrambling through the rumors.
Oh yeah,
And then,
yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, you think it's such a higher quality game using less Pokemon, which inevitably, I was telling this to John, which it may not be noticed after a while, but essentially you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot here with playability. Because what if, and especially with veteran players, because for the first 3 generations, there was only whatever Pokemon they released, and then you caught those ones, and then it's like come Generation 4, you start to see storage units.
Right.
So, and then there's more playability, more playable characters. It's quite a storm they've created.
Yeah.
Because and John, you can interrupt me at any time, because people were expecting. It's almost like was the Pokemon community expecting too much because of this lull in information for almost half the year?
I feel like they were overreacting. And again, like I said, if they want to balance out the game, let them balance out the game. And it's like, again, like we said, we are going to still support the company no matter what, because we love these games for what they are. We stuck from Generation 1 all the way through to what's current now.
Right.
The point is, because if they decided to say, oh, well, yes, only half of the majority of the Pokemon are going to be able to transfer through the new games, that's fine. I took it as that's fine. I might not get every single Pokemon, but I don't really use most of these Pokemon. Yes, there is some favorites that I want to have still into the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna take it as, oh, that's lame. I want all of them. I get it. Like, Blastoise is also one of my favorite mons, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be in the game because it is a starter, and starters are gonna be in the Galar region regardless because they're starters. They're the main focus of Pokemon, what it is to Pokemon. They're gonna be in the game because there are starters. Now, for the majority of every other Pokemon in this game, there is a point where, again, balance is key to a Pokemon game. And it's always been that way. Balance has always been a key to Pokemon. So, for them to drop out some of these Pokemon, like Ballswall, like some of the Ultra Beasts, some of these Ultra Beasts are kind of broken. And Game Freak knows this because they seen it. And some of these other like Mega Evolutions, like this is another point where Mega Evolution is not gonna be part of this game at all. They cut that off because they know it was
Mega
unbalanced.
Evolution, I'm totally with that.
They cut those off because again, unbalanced issues.
To be honest, I'll say I mean for Z moves I can understand. I can sort of megas. I guess sort of. I can.
They really need to bring back the freaking gyms, the power gyms.
I'll be honest, I don't like Dynamax.
Kaiju battles.
Kaiju battles, man. It's Kaiju battles though.
I'm just saying.
Kaiju battles.
It's Kaiju battles though. I think that's dope.
It's like look. Think about it this way: if Tyranitar makes it into the game, or Haxorus. You could literally make.
Now, here's the thing.
Fights.
Here's the thing. I get it in the competitive scene because I had one YouTuber who kind of didn't like the whole concept of battle. But again, it's like you get to use this Pokemon. Yes, we don't know the exact stats of how much they did increase, but you're only using this Pokemon's form and only in 3 turns. And then it goes back to normal. And you only get to use that one Pokemon for that matchup. So, it seems like it's balanced, but then it also seems like it's maybe not as balanced because we still don't know how much the stats increase for certain Pokemon when they do battle, when they get into that form. So, I get it, but I can see why a lot of people don't want it in that competitive play. But again, you always set out those rules and say, no, I don't want you to use these. You know, you can always set up rules. And that's another thing about Pokemon. You can always set up rules when it comes to that. And it's like, are you going to be playing in a tournament? Because tournaments will allow them to use these in tournaments because that's their rules. That's how that's going to be played. But if you're playing it as a casual player against other people, you don't want that there. So yes, you the one who's the person who's voting, challenge me. These are the rules. I don't want this version to be in this game when we against each other. You don't want that part of the game to be played into this matchup that we're about to have. You can set those rules. So it shouldn't be an issue that having this Dynamax system here, if that's all you're gonna really complain about, because you know you can set the rules to not having it part of the match. Why complain about it? It's a good concept, but you shouldn't complain about that setup unless you know you're gonna set the rules with those concepts. You can always not set those rules. And yes, and there's also those things where yes, some people are gonna do online battles and they're gonna have that set up in the online battles. That's where you cannot change because you're getting random people in the online game mechanic, and you're gonna deal with people who are gonna have Dynamax Pokemon in their team. So yeah, I kind of get that part where you kind of feel like offensive about, but overall, again, when it comes to that online in tournaments, yes, their rules are gonna allow them to use these, but when it comes to me guessing a friend in a local battle or guessing a friend in a cross the world type battle and I set the rules, then you shouldn't be worried about that because you have your 4 different ways of going about this, and your 2 ways of going is like, well, then I might as well be guessing one of my friends in a Wi-Fi battle. Maybe I should just against my friend in a local battle instead of going to a official tournaments that gonna allow them to use these items to make them Pokemon be bigger and have more stats, and therefore either going into a random Wi-Fi battle with someone I don't know that's gonna use that and I can't tell them the rules.
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
And then sometimes they do have special tournaments allowing people to not use items like that. So it, it just it's one of those things where people have to think before like assuming the worst.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. People tend to assume the worst of most things. Like, so what I was saying for Dynamax is like, I wasn't really thinking much of like, I wasn't really mad about what the competitive part. It's just like I just thought the idea of Dynamaxing was just like, I kind of thought it was a little bit of a downgrade compared to the Z moves and Megas. I just thought it wasn't really adding anything to it. Like just making them big. Like it's just really adding things to it. I just thought you could have just stayed with what they had because it was already fine. Yeah, I can definitely understand what that means. Like when you go online, you're gonna face a lot of people that have it. But most people have counters for this. I guess if you have to make the right moves and whatnot, you'll be able to get through it. But I just thought Dynamax it was just kind of stupid, but I can definitely understand what you mean by that.
Especially since this is kind of like replacing the whole Mega Evolution.
Yeah, like there are a lot of cool Mega Evolutions too. That's I'm like, damn.
And another thing that supposedly is a lot of people were like hoping that maybe we could make the Mega Evolutions more of a permanent evolutions instead of making them Mega Evolutions. But then it's like it's a good concept because again, not a lot of people actually like the whole Mega Evolution portion of it because yes, these were cool forms for Pokemon, but I was preferring a permanent evolution than just you have to use an item to Mega Evolution this Pokemon. Yeah. Because a lot of people say that same way with like Houndoom. Houndoom was a good Pokemon, but I didn't like the fact that it had to Mega Evolve into this Pokemon. I was preferring a permanent evolution, not a Mega Evolution. There's a lot of Pokemon that needs just a permanent evolution, not Mega Evolving it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if they would have had that something like that because there's some Pokemon that. Because there's some Pokemon that I feel like need another evolution. Like I feel like Mawile needs an evolution. And I honestly like the way it looks. And same thing goes for what other Pokemon? Well, I like that the Scizor got one. And, it just looks nice.
Exactly, and that would have been nice if it was like a permanent evolution.
It really would have been nice. Definitely. But I just think I just hope for the best for next season. I mean, I know. I'll agree that there's people that take most stuff out of proportion with the news. Honestly, if they don't, they see this as a problem, like they address it. Like most people have been addressing it and all that. And I kind of think it would be nice. It would just be nice to just if you want to address it, don't have to go all out. You don't have to have pitchforks coming to Game Freak. I would prefer just people just.
Well, Masuda and Omori are gonna have to stop the bleed eventually.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna have to. Because, and this is according to a website called TheJDzero, the response has been really brutal. Really brutal. Like, it's even canceled half the pre-orders.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's kind of, again, where I'm saying, like, okay, if you're a true Pokemon fan,
74% dislike ratio.
it's ridiculous, because it just states the fact that, yeah, Pokemon Home has its fuck ups, but again, you going in there with, okay, well, we don't know if they're gonna do an update. You just don't know, and that's a question.
There's no real decision whether they're going to part.
And we don't know that.
The rest of them in there.
Yeah, that's another thing.
He's come out and said that he's not. There's no decision at this time.
So yeah,
the rest of them in there.
So again, like I said, it's one of those things where we don't know if they're gonna do an update. They don't even know if they're gonna do an update. It might take like a year afterwards for them to actually say, okay, we're gonna add an update where we're gonna increase the limited Pokemon to be in there, or they're gonna, again, like I said, wait till another new game comes out, and then we're gonna start putting more Pokemon into that game, and eventually they might build the last game to allowing all Pokemon stack up into the last game that they're gonna probably produce out. But we don't.
Let's see.
And they are trying to get to about 1,000 Pokemon added onto the console, regardless. So it's like that's 2 games that they're gonna have to go through to actually get the 1,000 Pokemon into the game, and that's what they're targeting too, is getting 1,000 Pokemon in each generation of the game. So knowing the fact of Generation 8 is gonna have about almost close to about 870 something Pokemon added to the game. Generation 9 is gonna have almost up to a 900 Pokemon in that game. Then you gotta wait to the 10th generation that's gonna include that 1,000 part, or it's gonna include half of 900, and then Generation 11 is gonna have the rest and completely downsize that 1,000 part. Are they gonna let us have all the Pokemon into that particular game? Probably not. But we just don't know yet, because they don't know yet. And again, this game is gonna be fun regardless if we had all the Pokemon in it or not.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun regardless. Definitely.
And I'm still gonna buy both of the games. So, and I feel like this is where we need to split off, saying who's really a Pokemon fan, and don't really judge the creators for doing what they did for the game, or the fact that they took half of the generation. It's like you're still collecting all the Pokemon onto the console, and that's what they're trying. The main active goal is transferring all the Pokemon to home, because the national dex is set up in home to having all the Pokemon directly there. So technically you are going to be able to collect all the Pokemon into one area of the console for that software. But when it comes to the Pokédex in general for the Sword and Shield, it's their Pokédex is not gonna be nationalized at all. But yes, we're still gonna say, like, there is certain Pokemon that's in Sword and Shield that will have these Pokemon in there, so you could be able to transfer them over. Now,
yeah, 'cause I think people like that having that choice of whatever 870 Pokemon they want to use, they have that playability option.
Yeah.
I think that's what the issue is that you're taking away that playability option after how many years?
But again, it's never been a majority of that playability. Again, it's just every single generation always had half of the Pokemon. It's always been that way. So the fact is, like again, like a lot of fans are saying, like, well, isn't it supposed to be catch them all? Well, technically, you're not catching them all. It's always been catching some of these Pokemon, trading them over with another person, or getting a event from a GameStop store or an online situation that you're getting these Pokemon from. It's never been catch them all. It's never been that way. Yes, in the anime, that's always been the titlement, but you don't see Ash catching all the Pokemon either. So therefore, it's completely explaining the fact that has Pokemon ever caught them all? Have you ever caught all the Pokemon? No, you have not. You always caught some of the Pokemon.
You haven't been able to do that since Generation 1.
And you still haven't did it since Generation 1 because, again, in Generation 1 never had all the Pokemon in its one main game. It always had some of the Pokemon in its main game. So, it just like, it literally just like, why are you still attacking the creators about that titlement when it never been that way to begin with? So,
I mean, eventually they're gonna have to stop the bleed because, again, they're gonna have to find some common ground for what Game Freak wants.
Yeah, because it's like,
and what the consumer wants.
It's so ridiculous because
if they don't stop the bleed, and Masuda just says, "Hey, look, the National Dex is included in home."
And I believe they said something about that. It's in home, so
they have to at least stop the bleed with what they've already said, because it's like in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it was the same way.
Yeah, and the National Dex wasn't in Sun and Moon.
The National Dex wasn't in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but the only difference between Generation 7 and Generation 8 is that people could transfer any Pokemon they wanted from the bank to Ultra Sun and Moon, and the fandom has pretty much gotten used to this idea, and so I'm pretty sure that's just the expectation, is that, hey, you guys did for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and now you're kind of taking it back with Generation 8.
It's not like they're taking it back, though. They're trying to improve it by doing something that, again, still balance the meta of the new game, because we don't know what else they're going to try to add into this new game that will make it unbalance itself. So that's why they're reducing some of the Pokemon that needs to be in the game to better balance out the game. And again, it's not like they have any issues of the 3D models of a Pokemon, because as you can see there's generation Pokemon from each generation that has a good ass model. So apparently they fixed the models.
It's like however many Pokemon are being released for Sword and Shield, so Generation 8, add that to the 150 that were animated already for Let's Go. So you have, and mind you, so you have 810 minus 150. That's 660 Pokemon left. Minus that's it. And so this game's essentially been in development since before the development of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or even Sun and Moon.
Exactly.
So my question is, if they're doing this, then what have you been doing this whole time since 2015?
Other than Let's Go, because again, like they said, they wanted to get Let's Go up there.
Right.
To
they had a team for Let's Go. They had a team for Sun and Moon, and then they had a team, an essential bigger team for this game.
And they're also doing other games now, so that's another thing. So they're literally like, okay, well, we making a team that's just for Pokemon in general, and then the rest of our squad members are going on to other games that we want to put on to the games, because we are considered Game Freak, not Pokemon Company. We're considered as Game Freak, and our company is anymore. And it's like we're trying to make more than just Pokemon as our franchise. Yes, Pokemon is our franchise, our general base.
It's essentially your bread and butter.
Yeah, but we still want to do other creative things, or it gives us free, open-minded on other stuff to just not only put us as the tournament of that's what we're known for. That's like the same thing for like YouTubers. Well, I'm a PokeTuber, but I don't want to be just known as a PokeTuber. You know, I want to be all around gaming. I want to be a gaming channel. I just don't want to be just known for Pokemon. But that's all my content. That's pretty much all my channel is Pokemon content. But sometimes I'll do have Street Fighters, or I'll have Dead or Alive fighting games. I'll even have Call of Duty games on my channel. I'll even have Kingdom Hearts on my channel. I'm an all-around gamer. I don't just play these games. I want to also share the fact that I can play these type of games on my channel. I'm known for being a PokeTuber, but I want to be known as a gamer YouTuber, not just a PokeTuber. So that's another thing about Game Freak. Game Freak doesn't want to be just known for just Pokemon. They want to know. They want to be known as a gaming in general company. So again, yes, I feel like even though they had all this production and build and whatnot, for them to still go ahead and say, well, we already had the means to put all these Pokemon in the game. The reason why we're not putting these Pokemon in the game now is because we're trying to balance out the game. So I accept the fact that they're balancing out the game. That's fine. Again, at least my Pokemon are in Pokemon Home. So once they do an update, I can start adding more Pokemon into the game. So again,
but my question is, what if they don't do this update to where they don't allow for that portability?
That's my question too.
That's all we're trying to ask here, Jahan. Is what if they don't do that update where Vexethe says, "Oh, this was about balancing Pokemon."
Here's the thing again: they still have a remake to go off of, and they still have 2 more generation games. So even if they didn't get all the Pokemon for Sword and Shield, Sword and Shield is not the last game. And I feel like that's how you're kind of treating it. It may be the last game. That's how you feel that reason. But if it's not the last game, there's a reason why they have Pokemon Home for that reason. It's not the last game. You're gonna be still able to add Pokemon to a game, but overall, for Sword and Shield, this is what you're gonna get for the most Pokemon that you could transfer over. They might not let you transfer all of the Pokemon, but that's the reason why they're probably not letting you transfer all the Pokemon to that game, because they have new games that are gonna be afterwards gonna have most of the other Pokemon added to that new game, to another new game, so they can split out the majority of the Pokemon that they need to split out because they're trying to balance all four of their games instead of having just all these Pokemon into one generic game. And it seems like that's the concept of what they're going is to balance out all the new games that they're gonna have for Pokemon.
Yeah.
So
But
if they didn't
I mean,
update, if they don't update, then that's fine. I know what they're trying to do now is bring in another new game, so they could just transfer other Pokemon to that majority of the game, and then
Right.
proceed forward
because
and proceed
people want
forward
to play
with all their Pokemon.
play the new game with their favorites, and I think that's just it. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, and they're gonna only play with some of their favorites, and they're gonna play with some of their favorites in the next generation game. They're gonna play with some of their Pokemon in another next generation game.
It comes down to a portability issue.
And I don't think that is really a nitpicky issue. Again, it's like, well, they might have a set of Pokemon in this generation that has a good balance set.
Well,
That's why they want to just have what they pick for that generation, because there's a good balance set that they figured out that was in that generation. That's why half of the Pokemon in Pokemon Home is gonna be going into Sword and Shield, because they found out what their balance is, particularly in that game. So that's why they say, oh, well, we're only giving you guys half of this because it makes sense for the balance of the game that we're trying to give out to you guys. But in another generation game that we're going to be pitting onto the Switch, that will have the other half. And then therefore, when another game comes out to that, we'll have the other half of that. And then you will have the 4 games that have that balance, that perfect balance through all of these games. And then it shouldn't be an issue because you have that perfect balance between all these Pokemon. You're still going to have the games that's letting you buy more of our games, that's letting you have the option to think outside the box when it comes to making competitive Pokemon and making your teams even more diverse than what it was before. So, again, shouldn't be no issues.
okay.
It shouldn't be an issue if we go that route, if we think that route.
Okay. Well, again. Come on, Daisy. Really? Okay.
Anything to say?
Give me 1 second, because it's.
Because if you really think about that, I think that's a perfect play.
John, how long have we been friends?
For a good couple of years.
Let's see. And you know for a fact that I'm just gonna say 2015, so about 4 years. You know, I'm always going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I honestly think, because there's been a few things, because to this decision, many people believe that many more Pokemon are going to be cut from future games. And so, when I say it's not necessarily people, I honestly believe that the Pokemon fandom is the Pokemon fandom, and it likes having certain options. And I think the consensus of the opinion of this announcement is that it is kind of overdrawn. It is kind of a little bit reactionary because we haven't really seen this decision in playable form. That's one point to this thing, but I think you know, there's a lot of people saying out there that this decision is lazy. And it's part of the consensus that it's like slowly as we get towards that 1,000 mark, I think Pokemon fans don't feel like they have a voice when it comes to the new games. They don't have,
Whoa.
you know, because they're not able to keep their favorite features, number one. And so with that being said, it's like, okay, you're telling us that only a certain amount of Pokemon are going to be able to be used. Well, if you look back, there are contradicting statements.
There is contradicting statements.
And it didn't, and Pokemon fans didn't think that it would lead up to something like this.
Where it will be that contradicting?
Where it would be that contradicting. So that's why I'm saying that Game Freak, Masuda, Omori, they all have to stop the bleed. They all have to stop this bleed that's like, wait a minute, you're cutting how many Pokemon out of this game? To where it's like, I think the better model would be have the Pokedex and the Pokemon that you use within that Pokedex in the game, but give the players that option of picking an array and a variety of Pokemon to use within that game to essentially make their own adventure. And so with this limited play, because now it limits the playability just for this so-called balance. And I don't know how I feel about this. And for me, I have to see the game itself and the Pokedex itself to make an informed decision. But that's just how I see it. Where it's like, wait a minute, if I don't have that playability option, because a lot of people, if they don't like the starters in general, they like that playability option to play the game itself with the starter that they choose. And so what if that starter's not in the game? Then it's indeed like I'm in part for it, because it goes along with, oh, these are the Pokemon that are available in the game. And that's how it's always been. And that's where I'm understanding your opinion, John, is that that's how it's always been. Where it's like, there'll be a certain amount of Pokemon in one game and a certain amount of Pokemon in the other, and then you trade back and forth. That's always been a thing. But due to the sheer number and the sheer size of the game, I believe with it being ported to the Switch and the introduction of Home, this is the biggest contradictory statement, because the little arrows don't point to this type of announcement to where it's like you're now having a limited number of use of Pokemon inside Sword and Shield. Does this make sense?
It does. But
Okay.
let me be, because even though they, so as to the trailer, and you've seen some of the Pokemon that they had kind of like introduced from previous generations, it seems like they might have almost probably about almost like 400, like at least a good 400 Pokemon that they're gonna be adding from each generation, right?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, right? So as to the Dex itself for the Galar region, how many Pokemon do you think they're gonna be adding to the Dex itself?
Well, I mean, judging by its, and this is another,
Because we
sort of
still don't
theory,
know exactly how
because-
many Pokemon they added new to it.
right? They could do a Pokemon dump like Generation 5. or they could go for something aesthetically pleasing, like they tried in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. They could the rumors of how many Pokemon are going to be released. It's as low as 50 and as high as 150.
I would say maybe about a good 100, because again, we're at that 800 mark, and it either is gonna be about a good 100 or at least a good 80 at most. But that's is where again it's the balance.
Do you think they're gonna follow the same pattern that they have since Generation 6? So, because with the introduction of Generation 6, after the Pokemon jump to Generation 5, there's only 75.
Exactly. Again,
10 less Pokemon were released, and then with Generation 7, half the depth itself in Generation 7 is legendary Pokemon. With the introduction of the Ultra Beasts. So, there is that argument that could stand for this, to where it's like, if they cut the number of Pokemon in the game itself, I'd start with the legendaries because there are way too many. Way too
true, and then so far we only gotten 2 of the legendaries, and then we also have the.
And they look like Garou.
And we only had, we only have the, I guess, what you could say, the mythical Pokemon, Metal from Pokemon Go, and Miltank. So it's knowing the fact that we already got 4 Pokemon in general, in a way,
4.
for that. So it's like, well, how many other legendaries are gonna add on there? Because they still kind of hinted there's gonna be one more legendary that haven't been shown yet in there. That might consider like the 5th legendary. Also, you don't know if you're gonna have another trio legendary on top of that, or a quad.
Like the franchise itself is a juggernaut for Nintendo. But with the introduction of Game Freak trying to step away from Pokemon,
Well, half of the team.
You can kind of see, like, you can see cracks in the system. That they're, so that's what I'm saying, like, you have to stop the bleed. Because essentially with this announcement, and I hate to do this, and I'm all for it, and I'm trying to find a way to support what Masuda is saying. But you can't just continue, because you can't just continue to have these like little FU moments to your bread and butter franchise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
I can agree.
I still don't think it's a direct FU though. It's just, or again, like I said, the reason why they're probably still decreasing the momentum of adding new Pokemon is because they're trying to reach that 1,000 mark in Pokemon, where they can have the entitlement of, here's our 1,000 Pokemon in our last official game, even though we don't know if they are gonna actually make a new generation afterwards. But as to this moment, the reason why they are decreasing is because this is going to be up to the point of us making that 1,000 mark. So even if they decrease it by at least, like for this one, it's going to be like at least 75 or at least 80, we still have enough to probably either gain a little bit more in the next generation game, We don't know if they're gonna add the new Pokemon, and that's the thing about remakes, because remakes do eventually add newer Pokemon into, and it's either gonna be a variant change or not a variant change, or it's gonna be an evolution to a Pokemon. We don't know.
For me, I remember this conversation very vividly with you about that 1,000 rumor. And this 1,000 rumor was, granted, it was started over almost 23 years ago.
Exactly.
And so, because this rumor was started over 23 years ago, and at the time, Ken Sugimori did not realize how big Pokemon would have gotten at the time. So, again, opinions can change.
Yeah, and this looks like it could be the thing where they're gonna reach that 1,000 Pokemon.
So, with this being said, the rumor can no longer be valid, because number one, it's a juggernaut for Nintendo.
It's literally an obvious reason that they're gonna make it up to 1,000. But again, Pokemon has been very popular with their games, and therefore, even though this is gonna reach that 1,000 mark, and this is what they're trying to go to, we don't know if they're gonna get a fifth generation, another game on top of that will be like, oh hey, we're gonna have generation 11, and we're gonna put more Pokemon in there. But then it's also saying like, are they gonna let us transfer all the Pokemon from that? I mean, that's I don't want to see that. I kind of don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the 11th generation having all these old Pokemon into the game. Because at this moment in time, I'm also feeling like this should just be a straight up brand new game with 151 Pokemon, if that's the case. Even though it's going to add on to the 1,000 of the Pokemon franchise game, it just, at least we're starting something new, and I don't have to deal with all these other Pokemon. Yes, I love my Pokemon, but I really want to start really new and fresh without these Pokemon being part of my life. You know, there's Pokemon Home. I can look at them. That's fine and dandy, but I don't want to have all these these Pokemon introduction with my actual brand new game that has nothing to do with these generation Pokemon. Now, again, yes, there's a lot of fan base that wants these Pokemon. I get that, but again, it's like the whole concept of their Pokemon and the whole concept of Pokemon in general, because again, I'm gonna have to use Ash logic on this. Even though you have a bond with a Pokemon, you can always see it again eventually. You have to let your Pokemon go. It's always that heartbreaking situation, but you have to let your Pokemon go. You have to let your Pokemon do its own thing. Sometimes not all these Pokemon are gonna stay by you. They have a life as well, and they want to live their own life. Yes, they wanted to travel with you, become stronger, but they also want to do their own thing. So that's another thing where
I just kind of did some math. And so, if we're still going off of this 23-year-old rumor of 1,000 Pokemon only within the entire franchise, and so the introduction of Generation 8, so if I do 1,000, because we don't know how many are going to be released, so if I do 1,000 subtract. So if I just subtract 809, so whatever is confirmed, that leaves 191 Pokemon. And then we divide that number by 3. That means 60. I'm gonna round up because it's 63.6667. So only 64 Pokemon per generation to reach that 1,000 mark. And so, still to me, that just
It's
harkens
small.
back to
It is small. Like I said, it is small. But this
It's
is why
small.
they're trying to split up the Pokemon in home for that said reason. Because,
yeah.
again, we don't want all the Pokemon there. We're trying to have a balanced game. 64 is the minimum to balancing out the rest of the Pokemon throughout the generation.
So if we
And-
do 809 plus 65, 874, plus another 64 after that, 839. And if we take 839 minus 1,000, that means 62 Pokemon will be in the last game.
That's not bad.
But that makes for an incredibly short game for the next, say,
No, like I said, they will just do 151 as their newest game to like just freshly restart the whole franchise entirely. That's what I'm thinking they're trying to do.
so
Just
that brings us to 859 for Generation 8. And that would mean if we're still minus 41 Pokemon will be in the last game. So Generation 9.
yeah.
So you almost have to think about it this way. Pikachu is up there with things like Mario and The Legend of Zelda.
Pikachu isn't. Don't get me started on fucking Pikachu. Not now.
Pokemon.
I feel like that's bullshit. That's bullshit
Okay.
though.
I'm gonna say this. We'll play Pikachu with Pokemon, okay? Because Pokemon, Legend of Zelda, and Mario are the 3 biggest franchises for Nintendo. Would you agree? Would you not agree?
Yes, it's the big 3, but still.
Okay. So, again, this is a 23-year-old rumor, and I'm not the biggest fan of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I'm not. I'm just not.
It was alright.
It was alright. Because, and so with this being said, because it just seems like at this point it's starting to go away from Tajiri's original idea. To where it's like it was originally made from a bug catching. So it's like you either, and this is what I understand the part of like their opinion of, we're expecting a very high quality game here.
Yeah, a very high quality game, not we can have all our Pokemon here.
But I'm not finished. It's a high quality game because Generation 6 was literally unfinished. Unfinished when it was released.
Yeah, that's why they did Ruby and Sapphire remakes, to finish the game.
But they didn't finish the game itself. They never finished Generation 6 because there are literal plot holes.
That's with all the games are plot holes.
But
They do connect, but they're still plot holes.
mhm. So X and Y was literally unfinished, and then you get, you have the introduction of Generation 7.
That kind
Which
of
is
solve most of the
right.
plot holes.
Which is, it's literally, to me, one of the more lazier generations released, because the concept of gotta catch 'em all was forgotten in Generation 7.
Again, that was never a thing in Generation 7. Like I said, it's never been a thing.
There was this very small Pokedex for this region. Very small.
It was small, but again, like I said, it's never been a thing with catching them all. Has never been a thing. If catching them all was ever a thing, all the Pokemon in that game would have been available to you at the start if that was a thing. But it's never been that way. So where did that come from when it's never been a thing at all?
I mean, I just, Pokedex. Let me look at this up, because the thing that we're trying to get across here is that it may not be a gotta catch 'em all kind of scenario, to where it's like in each of the games there's version exclusives, there's event-based Pokemon,
Trade Pokemon,
etc., etc., etc.
but never catch them all.
Yeah, but that's not.
And that was the whole point, right? Catching them all.
Coming from when it comes
Transferring Pokemon is not catching them all. Let's just put that on another note. Let's just note that one down, because again, like I said, catching them all has never been the official point of Pokemon. And I think the directors also just even the directors said that catching them all was never the concept of the title of these games. It's never been that way ever since Generation 1. It's never been that way. So why now say that? Why fans now say this to the directors when for a fan, you as a fan know this? Pokemon's never been always catch them all. Yes, it's the intro to the original Pokemon theme song for the animated theme, but it's never been that way even within the animated series plus against the games. It's never been applied to catching them all. You either trade the Pokemon, get the Pokemon through an event, and do trade evolutions to get your Pokemon. And other than that, you still have the legendary Pokemon that are still not available into the game to get through an event of a game to get set Pokemon that will be added onto your game later on through an event online. It's always been that way. Again, where we still don't have the whole point of actually getting these Pokemon all in one game. And even transferring all the Pokemon that you did collect over time, it still states that you didn't actually catch these Pokemon in the main game. You just transferred all the Pokemon over. You didn't actually catch all these Pokemon all in one setting. Like Pokemon Go is a perfect example of technically catching them all in one setting. Yes, you have to do a lot more travel to getting some of these Pokemon without having to do a trade, but therefore, that's a perfect example of catching all the Pokemon in one go. Again, like I said, for the main series games, Pokemon has never been about catching them all. Unless they actually make a game like that to fix that issue.
It's not that issue per se.
I feel like that's the issue. Where people still don't decide that catching them all instead of transferring them all is the same thing.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, John, the main issue, and this is just from my perspective, the main issue of the backlash itself
is transferring all the Pokemon. I get that.
It is transfer. It's that part of the playability.
But more of the fans need to understand that. Stop using the word catch them all. Just use the word transfer them all, because that's basically the plot point here, is to transfer them all. But again, having all these Pokemon in the game is not gonna make the gameplay better, because we don't know if the gameplay is better without these Pokemon, because the games haven't came out yet. So until the game comes out and we see the actual gameplay and the playability of these new Pokemon, we could actually confirm if it was good enough to even have all these Pokemon in the game at all.
Right. So I think, and at the same time, this is where I'm kind of playing devil's advocate to the fandom. It's like, there's a sheer number of Pokemon. So it could be a little bit tiny overwhelming to someone who is new to the franchise. We're like, oh my god, I have to catch how many?
Exactly. Again, perfect example. If someone believes that catching them all has to catch every single Pokemon that's been added to the Pokédex will be kind of overwhelming. That's another good example. Again, this is why they never made a game like that. And if they ever do make a game like that, it'll probably be their last ever game to even do something like that. Again, this is why we have Pokemon Go for that set reason. Because at least Pokemon Go knows how to introduce Pokemon into the game and making Pokemon where it's accessible to actually getting region variant Pokemon to like exclusive Pokemon to a certain region will be able to somehow have an event that will bring that Pokemon to your side of the region, and they will have the other Pokemon on the other side of the region. So you'll be able to get all these Pokemon added to the Pokédex, but it wouldn't have been too overwhelming because it does it through a certain update. It's slow pace to getting to where you need to be able to get all the Pokemon without having to do a trade for the Pokemon. Again, yes, this is a perfect example of Pokemon Go aspect of it. Again, when it comes to, like I said, for the concept of the main franchise, it will never be that way because it's a good way to balance out the game. And like I said, it's all about balance when it comes to their games. It's always been this way. And when they got to Generation 7, it seemed like it was kind of almost where it didn't really balance out as much as it needed to. That's why they're like, okay, we need to draw back on these Pokemon because it's just unbalancing. So, and we need a little bit more balance.
Half the Pokédex itself was just legendaries.
Yeah, again, and a lot of people use legendary Pokemon for most of their competitive play.
Do you
So
remember when I had my own channel and I said, do not
exactly, exactly.
For the life of you, use a legendary Pokemon in my presence.
Exactly. Again, that's the general rule with that. But again, you still have people who do competitive Pokemon. You do have people who play tournaments. That's all that people do at tournaments. Play legendary Pokemon in their tournaments. And even in the official tournaments, like the Pokemon Company's tournaments that they have, it's all about legendary Pokemon in their competitive gameplay. So to have them decide they want to keep it even lower balance, I don't think we're gonna see legendary Pokemon anytime soon. That's added to the game, and I think that's the main reason why they're like, oh, we're only giving you guys half of the Pokemon. These means like we're not gonna let you guys use legendary Pokemons. Maybe legendary trios, because legendary trios are a big part of having the competitive gameplay that you guys have. Maybe a little bit of a mythical Pokemon if top of that, because again, the game is a little bit balanced that way. That's probably what you're gonna see. Again, like I said, there's gonna be probably like 3 more games after this, and they're gonna allow you to transfer the rest of those Pokemon through those particular generations of the game. Again, it's way they have it balanced out for this, because if they're going this route, is they saying that, well, we figure out what our balance is in Generation 8. This is why we're only gonna have this amount of Pokemon. You don't know what these Pokemon are. Some of these Pokemon you do see in the gameplay that we have provided for you guys. Those are most of the Pokemon that are eligible in the game at this moment. But once we officially give you like another trailer or anything, information of what the other Pokemon are in this game, this is what we got. This is what's balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And in a new generation game that we're gonna probably give you is gonna be the rest of the other Pokemon, because again, we're still gonna try to balance out the other 2 games that we're trying to have, at least the 3 games, because again, we still probably gonna get that remake, and we don't know how much Pokemon they're gonna try to like introduce as new. They probably only give us 2 or 3 new Pokemon out of Generation 4 remake, and then the rest of the new Pokemon are gonna be in between the Generation 9 and Generation 10.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean, I looked at the breakdown, and the only generations to have 100 Pokemon or less are the last 2.
and I believe that at least in Generation 10, being maybe the last generation game, they're probably gonna have the minimum of 100 Pokemon in that game, and then Generation 9 is gonna probably have half of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, like I said, even in a remake of Generation 4, it's probably not gonna be a lot of Pokemon in there. It's probably just gonna be new evolutions or maybe baby evolutions of a Pokemon.
Right. So, I mean, at this point, I'm not attacking Game Freak at all for their decision. I'm just kind of confused by it, really.
Yeah, I
And
can
so
see that.
I'm not attacking, but I do believe that the backlash is so
Kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb. It's really
so
kind of
bad
dumb.
that they do have to stop the bleeding eventually and say, hey, look, as a consensus, you know, there's a lot of things that kind of boiled up to this, you know, and I can kind of see where it's coming from. And, you know, honestly, like, it's kind of a hot and cold reaction.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's like we were all jazzed in February.
Yeah.
And then we have, let's see, there was one at the end of April? Or the end of May?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you off right now. But it's kind of almost my time to also leave, and I think Luxray Master is also gonna have to go as well.
Yeah.
So we could pick this up another podcast as well. And we could just
There probably will be a part 2.
yeah, there will be probably a part 2.
Conversation.
But before we do, go ahead and leave you guys off with whatever it needs to be leaved off with. We did get the final results from out of the matchup between Saya from Bloodsea and the Akame from Akame Kill anime. The fight off and see who won that. That was Akame Kill who won the match between these 2 fighters. I'm kind of shocked and surprised. No one kind of like voted that much for Saya, and she's a good fighter as well. But it is what it is for that. But our next fight will be between the Kid Flash, who's versing Quicksilver as our next fighter. So hope you guys vote for that and see who could win that fight and
I'll
everything.
probably vote for it when it's like Ash versus Ren.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna go ahead and head out. See you guys.
All right.
Or see you.
Bye.
See you in another 2 months.
All right. Bye, guys.
Okay.